So the next article I wanted to take a look at was J.K. Rowling's response to this whole situation. I can't even do it justice without reading the article, so let's take a look at it and see what happens. This is by CNN. J.K. Rowling under fire over transgender comments. Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling has come under fire for expressing support for a woman who lost an employment tribunal over comments she made on social media about transgender people. Maya Forstater brought a claim against the Center for Global Development and CGD Europe, an international development think tank, after she lost her job as a researcher following comments on Twitter criticizing UK government plans to allow people to self-identify their gender. Forstater does not believe that it's possible to change sex and that men who have undergone gender reassignment surgery are still men, even if the law recognizes them as women. For a little bit of context here, like, I don't get terribly involved in this whole side of politics, as in, like, I don't know a whole lot about it. Like, I've been trying to keep up with it and trying to learn and understand more about this. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm really not extremely knowledgeable. Like, there are more knowledgeable people out there than me on the subject. So I'll do my best to work my way through the subject because I feel like it is important to talk about. Forstater does not believe that it's possible to change sex and that men who have undergone gender reassignment surgery are still men, even if the law recognizes them as women. I don't think people should be compelled to play along with literal delusions like trans women are women, she wrote in a private message to a coworker that was cited in evidence in the case. So let me tell you my understanding of the situation. When we're talking about sex and gender, there is a difference between the two. Okay, so I try to go with the science on everything, if possible, on this subject. And the science and the psychology behind this is telling us that gender is a separate thing from sex. For example, in the DSM-5, it talks about gender dysphoria. So gender is the mental aspect of this, and sex is the physical aspect of it. Okay, so sometimes people's gender and sex don't align, and they can experience gender dysphoria, like the feeling that something is not right, like they should be different than they are. And I actually have a family member who I'm not going to name, but because, for privacy and all that. I have a family member who is trans, and she has said that she hates taking a shower because she's forced to face what she is, and it just bothers her. Like, she can't stand it. It eats her up inside. That is the type of thing that a lot of people deal with. So this person, Maya Forstater, is something known as a TERF, I believe, which stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist. Typically, in my experience, they're extremely toxic. The ideology behind it is extremely toxic and doesn't recognize the science behind this, and doesn't recognize or show any kind of understanding for the people who are experiencing this type of situation. So with that in mind, let's continue reading and see what else it says. The tribunal, making a preliminary ruling in her case, determined that Forstater's views were not protected as a philosophical belief under the Equality Act of 2010. Details of the tribunal held between November 13th and 21st were published Wednesday. The employment judge, James Taylor, wrote in his judgment that he considered Forstater's view to be absolutist and incompatible with human dignity and fundamental rights of others. So I did a little bit of reading about this, and from what I understand, there are some protected beliefs, protected viewpoints, and things like that. For example, if you believe that Jewish people don't eat bacon, that is a true belief, but not entirely. Like, there are some Jewish people who do. But aside from that, it's protected because it doesn't violate human rights or human dignity. But let's see, it says the judge wrote in the judgment that he considered Forstater's view to be absolutist. Being absolutist about anything, like being black and white thinking in general, I've said this a billion times, black and white thinking will be the death of you. It is a bad thing to just have black and white, all or nothing, us versus them kind of thinking. Like, if you can't see nuance in something, then you've got a problem. You have to find nuance in things. Nuance exists. And having this absolutist black and white thinking ideology is counterproductive. It's extremist by its nature. In a statement posted on Twitter Wednesday, Forstater said she believes that sex is a biological fact and is immutable. As I said, there is a difference between sex and gender, and that is recognized by science, like I said a minute ago. So the cells in your body are, at this immediate moment, cannot be changed. The cells in your body, i.e. XX, XY, or any variation of that. But gender is the mental understanding of who you are and is recognized in the DSM-5. So you can say that sex is a biological fact and is immutable. Sure, your cells can't be changed at this moment. But gender is something that exists in your brain, and I don't see what attacking and hurting people and destroying them emotionally is helping. Like, I don't understand why is this even coming up? Like, yeah, okay, sex is technically a biological fact, and the cells in your body at this moment cannot be changed. What does that have to do with people who experience gender dysphoria? And why are you making their lives worse? Why are you making their lives harder? All right, let's continue reading. There are two sexes. Men are male, women are female. That's not true. Men and women, as I've said, in my understanding, the terms men and women reflect gender. Male and female reflect sex. So if you are physically, like the cells in your body are made up of XY, for example, then you are biologically this sex. Doesn't mean you're not a man, or doesn't mean you're not a woman. Those can be the terms that identify you and the state that your mind is in, how you see yourself. And I really don't see why it matters. Like, why does everybody care so much how somebody identifies? Like, why do you even give a shit? Why does it matter to you? Let them tell you who they are. Who are you to sit there and tell somebody that they aren't this thing or that thing? Just let them be who they are. Why are you inserting yourself up into their lives like that? It doesn't make any sense to me. Rowling, okay, J.K. Rowling, now this is her role in this. J.K. Rowling announced her support for Forstater on Thursday, writing, "Dress however you please, call yourself whatever you like, sleep with any consenting adult who'll have you, live your best life in peace and security, but force women out of their jobs for stating that sex is real? I stand with Maya. This is not a drill." Not sure what "this is not a drill" hashtag means, but anyways, this isn't the only instance of Maya being really aggressive and hateful about a group of people. Like, all right, let me give you an example of something, okay? If I were to sit here and say, I don't know, I'm just going to make something up. Black people kill more people than white people do, so they're more violent or something. I think that's a right-wing talking point I've heard before. Just bear with me through this, okay? If I were to say that, whether it's factual or not, you are being a dickhead for saying it. We can acknowledge scientific facts, and we can look at the studies and the information and figure out where to go from there and use them for constructive purposes. But if you're just running around saying black people are more violent than white people, first of all, you're misrepresenting the situation completely, taking it completely out of context, and you're saying things that hurt people, like, for no reason. If you're using this information in a legitimate study that's legitimately being used for some constructive purpose, fine. But this woman isn't. She's just using it to hurt people. That's it. So yeah, state a scientific fact. Let me state another fact that I hear all the time. Fact, quote unquote. Let me state another quote unquote fact that I hear all the time. All the banks are run by Jews. I hear that constantly from right-wing extremists. Whether it's a fact or not, if you go into a Discord server or something that's predominantly Jewish, say a Jewish Discord server, and you just drop that line in there, all the big banks are run by Jews, you know that's a dog whistle. Whether it's true or not, you're saying it to hurt people. And if that's not actually your intention, you're still hurting people. So if you're using that information for some legitimate purpose, then use it for some legitimate purpose. But don't go around shoving it in people's faces and saying it in the wrong place, because whether that's a fact or not, that could be really discriminatory to just drop that information somewhere in a group of people that you know could be hurt by it or have been hurt by that talking point. So whether Maya is technically scientifically accurate here or not is completely irrelevant. What she's saying is hurtful and doesn't need to be said. Leave it alone. Like, why do you need to hurt people with the words that you say? If you're using it for some legitimate reason, then use it. Don't go out there and shove it in people's faces. That's my take on it. LGBT rights charity Stonewall declined to comment on Rowling's statement, but addressing Forstater's case, a spokesperson told CNN, this case was about the importance of dignity and respect in the workplace. Trans people are facing huge levels of abuse and discrimination, with 1 in 8, 12%, having been attacked while at work in the last year. Commenting on the implications of the ruling, Luis Ria, senior associate at law firm Bates Wells, who advised Forstater's former employers, said in a statement to CNN, a number of commentators have viewed this case as being about the claimant's freedom of speech. Employment Judge Taylor acknowledged that there is nothing to stop the claimant campaigning against the proposed revisions to the Gender Recognition Act or expressing her opinion that there should be some spaces that are restricted to women assigned female at birth. So anyways, that's the J.K. Rowling situation. That's the Maya Forstater situation. Now, let's take a quick gander here at Activist Mommy's take on it. I have not read Activist Mommy's take on it, but I can't imagine it'll be anything less than entertaining. The title is J.K. Rowling slammed on Twitter for defending woman fired over transgender comments. Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling has never shied away from voicing her opinions on politics, and her views are usually welcomed with open arms by the progressive left, who love her anti-Trump or pro-mass migration rantings. Okay, first of all, pro-mass migration? Is she in favor of immigrants? Like, she's trying to bring more immigrants into the country? I don't think anybody is actually trying to do that, like any human being in the United States. I think the argument is we should treat them like human beings when they get here. Shouldn't mistreat them. We should recognize that they are people, they are humans, and they deserve human dignity just like anybody else. Whether you live in Idaho or Texas or Mexico, you're still a human being and you should be treated as such. I think that's the argument. I don't think it's pro-mass migration. Anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent here. Let's continue the article. This time around, however, she's attracted the wrath of the trans-affirming Twitter masses, who are outraged that the wildly successful children's book author who voiced support for a woman who was fired for saying that a man can't become a woman. Gosh, no matter how often we cover these stories, it never ceases to amaze how often we have to clarify that indeed a man cannot become a woman. Again, Activist Mommy here is using gendered language to refer to gender, not biological sex as assigned at birth. Man and woman refer to gender, the state of mind, not the cells in your body. So a man most certainly can become a woman and vice versa. More accurately, a man, somebody born as a male finds that they are a woman, for example. We need to keep repeating this until it no longer needs to be repeated. Anyway, back to J.K. Rowling's thought crime spree. And then they post J.K. Rowling's tweet. Dress however you please, call yourself whatever you like, sleep with any consenting adult who'll have you, live your best life in peace and security, but force women out of their jobs for stating that sex is real. Again, I just want to state for the camera here, it's like going into a Jewish Discord server and saying all of the big banks are run by Jews. Whether that is factual or not it is offensive for you to come in and say something like that. There's really no other reason to do that but to hurt people. Maya Forstater, 45, was fired from her job as a tax expert for the Center for Global Development in March of this year after being accused of publishing offensive, quote-unquote, tweets, daring to question such insane statism as government proposals to allow people to self-identify as members of the opposite sex, according to the Telegraph. No, allowing people to self-identify as members of the opposite gender. They come to find that they're women. They are not men. That's the whole bit here. If somebody is going against that, if somebody is conflating sex and gender like activist mommy seems to be doing here, and like Maya Forstater seemed to be doing, then they're just going against the science. Like, science has actively said these two things are separate, and we understand that they're separate, and they can be disconnected from each other. Like, I don't understand why this is so difficult. I mean, activist mommy has a bad reputation for denying science anyways, as seen in last week's podcast. She's an anti-vaxxer. She's an evangelical extremist. There are so many views about this woman that are just really, really questionable, to say the least. It's really disappointing to see people dog whistling and attacking people and hurting people for no reason. Like, they don't have to do that. They can be nice to people and accepting and understand that they aren't in their heads and they haven't been through their life experiences. Why do you have to hurt people? I don't get it. Your right to swing your fist ends at the tip of my nose. Just don't be a piece of shit to people. It's that simple. Seriously, who doesn't get this?